Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the MMA Corner wrap-up shows. Tonight, we give you our thoughts and I don't even know what to say for UFC Fight Night 42. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Ballabomb, the only pain reliever with the knockout power. Ballabomb.com. Check them out. Audio for tonight's episode is powered by Soul. Power, clarity, comfort. Soul Electronics. Get you some. I'm your host, Josh Davis, alongside my panel for the evening. Featured columnists at the MMAcorner.com, Jason Shelkey and Justin Fuller. Like I said, I'm not too sure where to start with this card. Typical UFC event. Questionable decisions, questionable stoppages. It is what it is, but overall it was a solid event. Guys, what do you think? Let's start with you, Justin.
I think there was definitely a lot of the unknown knowns going on tonight. We know there's these things like eye pokes or questionable judging going on, but you can't really call a fight on those, and while you have to know they exist, you can't really plan around them. So, I think some of those uncontrollable factors kind of put a mark on what otherwise would have been a good night of fights.
Well, and don't get me wrong, I certainly think it was a great night of fights. I think the UFC did very well, again, transitioning from the pay-per-view into this, and then obviously we have the pay-per-view event coming up. So no, this was a great filler. It was free on Fox Sports 1. So no, the UFC did great. And again, the UFC has no control over what the judges do. The UFC has no control over what fighters do and whether or not they throw three Stooges style punches, or if they throw punches with their fists closed. The UFC can't control that. But again, the product that they gave the fans tonight, I thought it was solid. If I was grading it, I'd give it a solid B+. Again, didn't have to pay for it. Every fight was aired on Fox Sports 1 except for one. So yeah, it was solid. Jason, give us your thoughts.
Well, you can never complain about free fights, but I think that there was just a lot of odd occurrences tonight. Even beginning with the main card portion, we had controversy with that fight, and there was only a couple fights that didn't have controversial aspects to it. The Jason High Dos Anjos fight, it ended very weirdly. Diego Sanchez, Ross Pearson, and it was just a really weird night of fights. It's the best way I can describe it, being PG.
No, it certainly had its oddities. There's no question about that. But for the most part, as a fight fan, as media covering it, I certainly had no complaints. I thought it was a solid night of. I thought most of the fighters came out and performed to the best of their ability. I thought, again, as the card as a whole, everyone performed. It was pretty solid. There were, only a couple of fights where I was like, all right, guys, either do something or let's move on. With that being said, let's move on. Let's get right into it. First fight of the evening, Bryan Caraway versus Eric Perez. I did pick Caraway to get the victory last Thursday on the show. Still don't think he's an elite level fighter. I think he's got a lot to prove, but he did do everything that he needed to do to get the victory tonight. You can't take that away from him. So let's start with you, Jason. Give us your thoughts on the fight.
I do not like the way this fight ended at all, especially if you see the multiple pictures of Bryan Caraway fishhooking Eric Perez. And so to win a fight like that in that sort of fashion, whether the fishhooking, who knows if that really gained him a huge advantage, or, maybe it didn't. Maybe, it was inevitable that Caraway was going to get that stoppage. But after seeing that, just kind of makes me disgusted. There should be something done. Take away the dude's win bonus, do something, because that was just some bush league crap that Caraway was pulling. And if it was like an accidental thing, I could get that. But when you have see it multiple times, I have an issue with that. There's no room in this sport for that crap.
Justin.
I think, this was a fight that kind of played out how we thought. If Caraway could get it to the ground, he would have success, and if Perez could keep it on the feet, he'd have success, and it worked out that way. Except, I guess I can kind of see what Perez was maybe thinking, trying to go for takedowns, but he wasn't. It's just, you were winning on the feet, You had him backed up on his heels. You had him hurt at one point. Keep it on the feet, and if you want to go to the ground, get there because you punch him in the face, not because you want to get tied up and waste a lot of energy trying to take him to the ground when he's just going to sweep you or get good transitions and get hooks and get good position on you. So, I thought matchmaking-wise, these guys were right there about that same level regardless of hype coming into the UFC. They're right there around that level, but I didn't really see a lot from Caraway that says he's going to be beating some of the topper echelon of the division, and I don't know if he is able to develop to that point. He's definitely gotten a little better, but we'll see.
Yeah, I have to agree. I certainly did not see anything tonight that told me that Caraway is certainly going to beat anybody in the top 10, any elite fighter in that division. I just don't think right now he has the skill set to do it. Now, can he continue to evolve? Sure. We've seen it in other fighters. Do I think he's going to? No. I think we're probably seeing the best Brian Caraway that there is. And as far as fish hooking or anything like that, it is what it is. You're in a fight. People do things all the time. They hit you in the back of the head. They grab the fence. They do all kinds of things. At the end of the day, even though there are rules, you're in a fight, and your natural instincts sometimes take over, and these things happen. Now, I don't condone it or anything like that. I'm not a huge supporter of anything to that nature, but it is what it is. Caraway gets the victory. I agree, though. I think they were on the same level. I think had Eric stuck to the game plan and kept the fight on the feet, he probably would have beat him up for 3 rounds. But again, this is why we're media and not in their coaching, I guess. All right, moving right along. I don't even know what to say about this fight coming up, so I'll let one of you guys take it. But we had
I got it.
Piotr Harman versus Yves Edwards. We'll go with you, Justin.
Yeah, man, Yves was looking good in that first round, but they can call it acclimation, they can call it cardio, they can call it altitude, but really what it comes down to is you get some nasty eye pokes like that, and it's kind of right up there as far as affecting the rest of your game, like getting a bad low blow or a gut shot. Like it's just your whole dynamic is going to be affected. And that first one came at a point when he was doing pretty good, and I thought he was about to start opening up better. And it just sucks because we actually had 3 in that fight, two on Yves and 1 on Hallman. So it just really, I don't know. Whenever I see those kinds of things happen, especially in a fight that's going pretty close for the first couple rounds, I always think what could have been, And it was just really sad to see Yves lose like that. It's not like he was just getting dominated for 3 rounds straight. It's no, the guy took a couple really bad eye pokes, and I'm not a contrarian of Mario Yamasaki. I actually respect the guy. I like him some days, but he definitely should have taken a point with that second poke, I thought. Like, those were just too, intentional or not, that were pretty bad ones close enough together that you could have taken away a point with that second one. Might not have changed the outcome of the fight, but at least it would have been warranted.
With that, because the eye pokes did change the outcome of the fight. Now, deducting the point might not have changed the outcome, but those eye pokes certainly did. When you get poked in the eye like that, one of the things people don't realize is your depth perception is off. And so now when you think a guy is really 6 inches away, he's actually a foot away. And so it makes it a whole lot harder to hit a guy. It makes it a whole lot harder to see punches coming because, again, you think he's farther away than he is. And next thing you know, your face is getting lit up. So those eye pokes, they're significant. They do a lot of damage and have serious effects on fighters. Jason, give us your thoughts on the fight.
Well, my sentiments are pretty much the same as your guys's, but the thing I want to touch on is why is an eye poke not considered a 5 minute foul? If you get kicked in the balls, you get 5 minutes. If you get hit by a illegal headbutt, you get 5 minutes. If you get poked in the eye, it's either you fight now or it's over. And that's one of the rules I have hated for a long, long time within the sport. I think in eye poke, you should get the same amount of time to recover that you would get from any other sort of illegal blow. Who knows if Edwards would have had that time to recover, the outcome of the fight would have changed. But that's one of the dumbest rules in the sport right now, right next to the 12-6 elbow rule.
No, they did look at that actually and give out some guidance on that last year. And if you listen to the dialogue, the doctor and Yamasaki weren't in any rush to pressure the fighters to get back in. They were like, "Are you sure you're good? You can take another second." Like, there is no mandatory 5 minute, but they did look at it, and I think this was just the fighters wanting to get back in there quickly. And part of it might have been in that fear that if I don't get back in there, it could be stopped because. But just from what I heard, from the doctor and from Yamasaki, it didn't sound like there was a lot of pressure to try and either, hey, fight now or don't fight at all kind of a situation.
Exactly. I get completely what you're saying, Justin, but over the years, the fighters have had it so ingrained in their brain that if they get, poked in the eye and they don't just go right back out there and fight, they're going to lose the fight. So even though the doctor or the referee weren't, in a hurry to get them back into action, after years and years and years of training, you have to think that that's what's going through their heads. Either, hey, I got to go out there and perform, or they're going to stop this fight, and now I'm going to lose. So but anyway, that's one of the rules I think should really be addressed. And I would hate to see Yves go out like this. I mean, Holman, he did put up a good performance. I had it even going in that third round. And I think that if Edwards were to call it a career, he would deserve something better than this, to go out with a bunch of eye pokes. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Well, I'm a big Yves Edwards supporter, and have been for pretty much his entire career. I love watching that guy fight. However, eye pokes are not. Going into the third round, the dude was gassed. He certainly didn't have it, and maybe having the 63 fights is starting to take a hold on him, because again, he was slow in that third round, and then when Hallman wrapped up the rear naked choke, he didn't even fight it. He immediately tapped. He didn't even try and grab an arm or do anything. As soon as it was in, he tapped. Now, again, once it's in, most guys know, all right, I'm not getting out of this, but you still try and fight. And he didn't. And so, to be honest, that makes me question really what he has left because, again, he didn't give it any effort. He just gave up. So, maybe, I don't know, maybe it is time for Yves to give it up. However, I'm not the person to make that call. That's up to him. So we'll have to see. Well, first off, we'll have to see if the UFC retains him after this loss, and if they do, we'll have to see what Yves wants to do moving forward. All right, guys, moving on to what I think was the fight of the night. This was the one that I thought was the most exciting fight of the evening. Rafael Dos Anjos versus Jason High. Jason, start us off.
This fight pretty much played out how I thought it was going to. On our preview show, I was talking about how I wasn't sure how I would be affected at his first fight at 55. Now, he did look good, but he got rocked pretty badly a couple times in that fight. And, in that last flurry that blew him out of there, granted, I think some of the punches landed at the back of his head. They were questionable strikes. But something you don't do ever is put your hands on a referee. no matter what the situation is, whether you agree with the stoppage, you don't agree with the stoppage, you don't push a referee. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens with that. But with Dos Anjos, he looked really, really good. His striking was good. It was on point. He was able to hold his own on the ground with Jason High, who took him for a couple of rides. And so he looked really good. And I'm not sure if dropping to 155 is the right move for him. And I'm really curious to see what the UFC is going to say about him pushing that referee after the stoppage. I can't imagine it's going to be anything positive.
Justin.
Yeah, this was definitely, I think, one of the more entertaining fights on the card. There, High had his moments, but this is one where, altitude definitely had an effect. The weight cut definitely started to show as the fight progressed. And, I think Dos Anjos showed that, the reason why he was and still is an elite guy in the division. And I think High was a good opponent for him to kind of prove that, not because it was a good matchup to make him look good, because it was a tough guy. It was a strong guy. It was a skilled guy. And it was someone who we weren't really sure how he was going to perform at that weight class. So, I'm just really curious to see where both guys go from here, how High, if he stays at lightweight, will he manage the cut better? Will a fight closer to sea level do better for him, or will it not matter because now he's adjusted to it, and, really who's kind of, who's out there that Dos Anjos can fight, because he's fought a lot of guys. So, let's, I don't know, have him beat up Diego Sanchez for a couple rounds and then submit him. That sounds good, right?
And Diego will still get the victory.
First off, going back to Thursday, I did pick Dos Anjos to win this fight simply because I thought he had more ways to win this fight. I thought his jiu-jitsu was better. I thought his grappling was better. I thought he was better on the feet. I thought the only way that Jason could win this fight is to, use dominant wrestling, get him down, and try and control position. This was a back and forth battle. It was a solid fight, but I think Rafael doesn't get enough credit. This guy is a beast. He has been lighting up fools in the division. He lit up Donald Cerrone. He lit up Evan Dunham. He got the victory over Jason High tonight. I want to see this guy, fight one of the top guys in the division. I would actually like to see him fight Ben Henderson. I think that would be a good matchup. So, again, I want to see them continue to push this kid forward, and let's see what he really has. Because again, every time I didn't think he should beat Donald Cerrone. I didn't think he should beat Evan Dunham. And to be honest, he walked right through both of them like they were little girls. So, again, let's continue to give him elite level competition and move him forward and see what he really brings to the table. With that being said, let's move on. John Dodson versus John Moraga. Justin, start us off on this one.
I think, I've had a couple of my calls not go that great, but I'm pretty sure I called this one by the round, I don't know. I couldn't remember if I said second or third round, but I think I said second round KO or TKO. So I think that still counts when it's at 5 minutes, at the end of the second round. I've been a fan of Dodson since he was on The Ultimate Fighter, and I like John Moraga too. That's a tough guy, man, and I don't think he gets enough credit, especially being a smaller guy and not with a lot of people not even knowing who he was going to the title shot. But Dodson's right there, and I think it's just a matter of time before he gets that rematch, and he eventually becomes a champion in that division.
Jason?
Yeah, I mean, both these guys are really, really good fighters. Just John Dodson's on another level, and it showed. His quickness, his striking prowess. He just looked incredible tonight. He got kneed in the balls and didn't even stop. He just kept on running around in circles around the octagon, being like, let's go, let's go. There's no question that John Dodson is the number one, or the number two guy in the division behind Mighty Mouse. And, I'm sure that we'll get to see him I'm in a title shot really soon, regardless of the outcome of, Demetrius's next fight, I would love to see him fight to win that fight. John Dodson, he keeps on just getting better and better and better inside the octagon. I become more and more impressed every time I see him. And yeah, I agree with Justin. I think he, if he can get past Mighty Mouse or whoever the champion may be, whenever that time comes, that he will be the future of the division for a while to come.
I'm a fan of John Dodson, like everybody else, and as he's starting to mature as a fighter, he's definitely getting a whole lot better, and there's no question at his size, with his speed and his power. I mean, this kid is vicious. But I will say this, to me, and again, this is just me, tonight he looked tentative. He didn't really look like he wanted to pull the trigger. He didn't want to really engage. He was much tonight. He was much more the counterpuncher, and if he is going to beat somebody like Mighty Mouse Johnson, he's got to take the fight to Mighty Mouse. He can't let Mighty Mouse be stalking him down and walking forward, because that gives Mighty Mouse too many options to get him with striking, takedowns, all of that kind of stuff. So I want to see more of a killer instinct. However, once he realized that he broke Maraga's nose with that knee, he jumped in and essentially finished the fight. I mean, obviously it was termed a doctor stoppage, is what it is. But Dodson is clearly the top contender in that division as far as I'm concerned. However, I still think he's got some work to do if he's going to beat Mighty Mouse, unless, like in the last fight, he clips him with the one punch that hurts him, and he's able to capitalize on it this time. Otherwise, it'll be a very similar fight to what it was the last time. I think Mighty Mouse is just that much better, and Dodson still got a ways to go to catch him, but he certainly has all of the skill set to do it. He's just got to continue to get there mentally and physically. All right. Co-main event. Diego Sanchez. Diego, questionable decision. Sanchez.
Yeah, I was going to say, the king of split decision, Sanchez.
Versus Ross Pearson. And, tonight's not the first night that Diego Sanchez has won a questionable decision. I mean, again, going back to his fight with Martin Kampman beat the crap out of him. And Diego, I mean, took a beating, but when that fight was done, his face was all lit up. Guy could barely even stand. I don't know how they gave him the decision. But
Gomi.
Again, another one. So, yeah, he is the king of questionable decisions. But with that being said, Diego Sanchez, Ross Pearson, who wants to start it off?
Me.
There you go.
Okay. Here is the only stat you need to know about this fight. Diego Sanchez threw 134 punches. He missed 101 of them. He landed 33 punches in that entire fight. I don't have the stats pulled up for Pearson, but I think it's safe to say it was a lot more than 33.
I think I predicted that. Not that number, but that would happen. That he would throw a lot of punches, hit a lot of air, but somehow, and that it would somehow be perceived by some people that the fight was close because he threw a lot of punches.
Yeah, so here's the keys to victory if you're Diego Sanchez. A, swing punches and miss. B, move forward. C, mean bug. Because that's all he did. He didn't do anything else in that fight. Ross Pearson, he's the one, he had the perfect game plan. He's kept his cool. He stayed, he used his technical skills to beat the brawler. From bell to bell, there's no question that Ross Pearson should have won that fight 30-27. He completely controlled the fight. He was the more technical striker, and he did not fall into Diego's play of making it a brawl. And I don't know what these judges, what fight they were watching, what they were on, what they, if they were drinking or they need to be drug tested or what the case may be, but this was just a horrible, horrible decision. And I was literally flabbergasted when the judges read the scorecards. This is one of the things where I think Pearson deserves to get a fight as if he won this fight, because he did win this fight, regardless what the judges say.
Justin.
Yeah, just so you know, someone keeps going into Wikipedia and changing where it says decision to robbery, and then of course someone goes back and changes it. So like every time I hit refresh, it goes back and forth between saying robbery or decision. Uh, but I mean, first off, when you've got two judges that have it 30-27, but the opposite, kind of like
Yeah.
this, uh, there's a problem. Like, there's a real problem. This wasn't, well, one or two clear 10-9 rounds and then one kind of, well, maybe the other way, maybe that way. No, that's a big problem. That's a guy who does not know what he's looking at. That's a guy that doesn't know the difference between punching air and punching face, okay? And that's clearly a guy that's never been punched in the face before in his life or even spent a day in the gym to know the difference. So there's a problem there, and Ross did what I thought he was going to do, and Diego did what I thought he was going to do, but the judges didn't do what they were supposed to do. Unfortunately, this wasn't some big money fight in Vegas with Pacquiao headlining it, so no one's going to do anything. I guess the only saving grace is that this wasn't in Vegas. It was in Albuquerque, and maybe they're going to be a little bit more receptive because they want the UFC to come back, so hopefully they look into it.
Oh, here's the thing. When you bring up the fact that you have two people, one person 30-27 on one side, one person 30-27 on the other side, the problem would be with the guy who scored a 30-27 for Pearson. If you look at if you look at the judges, see how the other two saw it a specific way. So I think two judges are the problem here. I mean, in all honesty, all kidding aside, how anyone scored that fight for Diego Sanchez is beyond me. That's just ludicrous. It should have been 30-27, Ross Pearson. There was no question that Ross won all three rounds. Was this an exciting fight? No. It was Diego Sanchez running forward, whipping, swinging it there, shadow boxing, doing anything but actual fighting. And on Thursday night, during the breakdown show, one of the big things I said, if Diego Sanchez is ever going to win a fight in the UFC, he's got to get back to taking people down because his stand-up is terrible. And again, he proved that tonight. It's not enough to just run forward and throw punches. I can do that. That does not make a UFC fighter. You got to be able to hit people. And again, tonight he proved that with his striking, he just can't hit people. He runs forward, bites down on his mouthpiece, and Henderson dropped him twice in this fight and loses a 30-27. Seriously, I'm done talking about it. It was terrible. The judges completely screwed Ross Pearson on this fight. Diego Sanchez should be 7-8 in his last 15 fights, but instead he'll be 8-7, and it is what it is. I do think the UFC will give Ross a proper fight, but we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. All right, main event of the evening: Ben Henderson, Husam Khabilov. On Thursday, I said that Khabilov was going to give Ben Henderson all that he could handle and then some, and that there's no question in my mind that Khabilov deserved this fight and deserved to be in the octagon with Ben Henderson. I think Khabilov proved it. However, I will say this, and I love this kid, I did expect a better performance from him tonight. And not that he performed badly, because he didn't. He, performed excellent. I expected him to have the cardio to go 5 rounds, and tonight he proved that he didn't. Coming into that 4th round, he was so gassed. He, could really barely stand. He had his hands down at his hips, and he was trying to bounce up and down like he had some kind of energy, but he didn't. Ben rushed in with just straight forward, hit him with the lead uppercut and then the overhand left. These were punches that Khabilov had been getting out of the way of all night previous. I did expect him to have the gas tank to go 5 rounds. Now, with that being said, Ben Henderson's a beast. Did get his first finish in the UFC. Looked excellent doing it. After you guys give us your thoughts on this fight, I'm just going to ask you, does Ben Henderson deserve another shot at Anthony Pettis or a shot at an interim title? Let's start with you, Jason.
There's
Thoughts
really
on the fight
nobody.
first?
Thoughts on the fight first. Okay. I think Henderson looked tremendous, and Khabilov, he was looking really good too. Actually, leading into that fourth round, two judges had him up on the scorecards 29-28. So it's not like he was, out of the fight. In fact, he was winning. So, you know, Henderson showed that he has the heart of a champion. He came back. He got that finish. Like you said, it was the first in his UFC career, and he looked tremendous in doing it. He kicked it into that fourth gear in that round where Khabilov didn't have the gas to sustain the pressure that Henderson was giving to him. So Henderson looked terrific. And to your second point, or your second question, I don't think there's really anybody else you could consider to put against, to put up for an interim belt if Sergey, depending on how long Pettis is going to be out for. You got to have Ben Henderson as one of those fighters because he, is number one in the division without a question. So if there is a fight for an interim belt, Henderson has to be one of the guys.
Justin.
I think he did. I think I called that one too. Yeah, on the fight. I mean, like I said, some of these outcomes didn't go the way I thought they would, but this is the second one. I think I called the round and type. I think I said fourth round submission. So I'm proud of myself for that. Thank you. But as far as Khabilov, he did perform, but performance slowly got slower over time. And I don't like to just always accuse the altitude like a lot of people do, but I'm more prone to do that than to say a guy didn't have the cardio or the gas. I always go with the assumption that all these guys are in shape. But that doesn't matter once you get in there because how good you're able to tap into that changes depending on how much you're getting, the crap beat out of you or what types of strikes are landed. And whenever they're at altitude, the way I see it as, that little Mortal Kombat life meter, every time you're hit, it moves a little bit more than when you're fighting at sea level every time until it's zero. And I think that's what happened here. And it wasn't that he was outclassed, but Benson proved why he is ranked number one. And he took on a young, dangerous guy that no one really wanted to fight. Let's point that out, too. Not a lot of guys are willing to take the fight with this guy, and he did because he knows that when you have two losses to the current champ, you pretty much got to do anything you can to prove that you deserve a third fight with that guy. And I'm not sure, I think if circumstances were different, we could maybe look at selling that fight again. But, I was impressed with his performance. I was glad to see him get a finish in the UFC. I was glad to see him get one in the win column. I think it's only a matter of time before he ends up fighting Pettis or Gilbert again within the next 12 months.
Well, a couple of things as we wrap up the show. Part of why I commented on Khabilov's cardio is because he trains in Albuquerque. He trains in
yeah, good point.
Altitude is not an issue. That's like me gassing out here in Denver. It's just not going to happen. My cardio's on point. So I just kind of expect that from a
I'm surprised you were
fighter.
able to walk around and breathe. I'm not going to lie. You were a walking 911 call every day.
But, and in all honesty, though, there's so much, it's his first main event fight, all of that kind of stuff. You have the adrenaline dump, everything like that. Shane Conway, same thing when he fought Brock Lesnar. I mean, the guy trained at altitude. And then fighting at sea level, his cardio was fine. These things happen, but again, that I thought was the main factor in the fight. As his cardio or as his energy depleted, Ben was able to slowly, methodically take over. And again, part of that is the constant pressure and pace that Ben Henderson puts on everybody. But I did, again, because he trains in Albuquerque at that altitude, I just expected that he'd be able to deal with that pace for fight.
He might have taken it for granted, too, and maybe not pushed himself as much because he thought it was going to be a handicap for Ben. but Benson turned that into a weapon almost possibly if Khabilov wasn't trained because he just assumed he would have the better cardio because he assumed because he was living at altitude. That's a possibility too.
Exactly, without question. Now, moving on to interim title and all that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously we know that Gilbert Melendez and Anthony Pettis are the next coaches of the Ultimate Fighter, and then they're going to fight for the title after that. Part of why the UFC did this was to give Anthony Pettis enough time to have his surgery and to heal up. So Ben's comments about the title not being defended and all of that kind of stuff, obviously that's the reason why. And even if Anthony was 100% healthy and ready to fight tomorrow, he's still coaching against Gilbert on the Ultimate Fighter. So they're not going to be fighting until after that. However, I will say this, if Ben keeps winning, the UFC is going to have to give him a title shot regardless of who has the belt. You can't continue to clean out the division and not get a title shot. And while he is 0-2 against Anthony Pettis, he's only 0-1 against him in the UFC. So I can't see the UFC possibly doing the third fight. So with that being said, guys, final thoughts on the card. Let's start with you, Justin.
Again, you can't ever complain about free cards. This was an A going in. I'd give it a B. I'll give it a solid B, based on performance, just because I can't really dock them for things that are beyond anyone's control. So, it just sucks that it kind of kills the momentum of what's going on, and that it could potentially, change the outcomes of fights. But there was still some good fights. Questionable decisions, questionable stoppages aside, it was entertaining. We got to see Patrick Cummins get his first win in the UFC. We got to see Sergio Pettis, although had its own controversy, get a win in there too as well. Get back in the win column in the prelims. We got to see, Brian Tate have to have his girlfriend to give him a pep talk in his corner, or Brian Caraway, sorry.
Yeah.
That goes to show that. But, and Benson Henderson proved why he's the number one contender right now, even though he's not fighting for the belt next. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. No real major complaints on as far as the fighters go or as far as the UFC goes.
Jason.
All controversy aside, with all the mishaps and the blunders and all the odd things that happened, it was an overall entertaining night of fights. And the one fight I do want to point out is Scott Jorgensen and Danny Martinez. I think that fight was, the best fight on the entire card. And they did get fight of the night bonus, which I think is incredibly deserving. Both those guys put on a great, great performance. And so, I was really happy to see that, and the rest of the fights, it's free. You can't complain about free, right?
Well, I don't think you should complain about free. I know I'm not complaining about free. I thought tonight's card was excellent. It was a solid B as far as I'm concerned. What did you expect? We just had a big-time event with Dillashaw and Barao. Next weekend we have Mighty Mouse Johnson and Bogatinov. So another big event, obviously co-main event on that card is Rory McDonald and Tyron Woodley. So for a weekend filler, and again, that's what this was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. This was one hell of a card, and the UFC definitely catered to the Albuquerque fan base. There's a bunch of Albuquerque-based fighters on this card, and again, for what it was, it delivered. It was a solid beat. Now, guys, we will be back Thursday night to give you our thoughts and predictions on the MMA Corner prediction show for UFC 174, Johnson versus Bogatinov. And then we'll, again, next Saturday, be back here live breaking down the action immediately following the event. So,
and prelims for that card are on FX, by the way. Thanks a lot,
yes.
Baseball.
Yes, definitely make note of that because of Fox's contracts with baseball. Fox Sports 1 we'll be showing a bunch of baseball from here on out through October, anyways, and a lot of these prelim events will be on FX from here on out. So, Justin, thanks for the reminder. With that being said, this episode was brought to you by BattleBomb, the only pain reliever with the knockout power. BattleBomb.com. Check them out. Audio for tonight's episode was powered by Soul. Power, clarity, comfort. Soul Electronics. Definitely get you some of these bad boys. They definitely rock. Love them. That's going to do it for us tonight, guys. Definitely make sure that you tune in next Thursday and next Saturday. For Jason Shelkey, Justin Fuller, I'm Josh Davis. Keep living the MMA Corner lifestyle. Peace.